My dear people of Southern Cameroons, I come to you today, to all of us with a heavy heart, very heavy heart indeed, because at the time that you hear the kind of news like we all heard yesterday, no matter how strong you are, no matter the degree of your willpower, your heart must be heavy. But the way of wisdom indicates that our hearts should not be heavy for too long. That is why, although I say my heart is heavy, it's getting lighter and lighter. And by the end of this conversation, you may find out that my heart is completely light. And that is the state of our hearts and our minds, how it should be as we forge ahead in this revolution. My dear brothers and sisters, I know the moment is a very trying one. I have read the messages coming from all over. I know a lot of people were devastated and were not even able to find sleep last night. I know that even on ground zero, a lot of people are even still crying and weeping. We shall not let our enemy celebrate. We shall not give La République du Cameroun the pleasure that they expected to have after this announcement. We will teach La République du Cameroun that the people of Southern Cameroons have known suffering for 57 years and counting, and that the people who have known suffering are virtually like that kind of situation described by the Africans when they say sugar and salt taste the same on a dying tongue. Mr. Paul Biya and your cohorts, I bring you a message. The message I bring to you is that the arrest of our leaders, the transfer of our leaders or not to Yaounde will not affect this revolution negatively. On the contrary, I pray and I fear for you, and I fear for the soldiers of La République, and I fear for the elections you are planning to organize this year, because by taking that stupid move, you have simply guaranteed that this revolution will develop more teeth. My dear people of Southern Cameroons, it is at moments like this that we all rise up and demonstrate to the enemy that we never get weakened by such things, that adversity would only strengthen our resolve to get right to the end. I'm convinced that we all know what the adage says, that once a slave has attempted to run away from the master, and the master succeeds in overpowering you and capturing you back, your situation will never be the same again. Your situation will be worse than the time you attempted to run away. Your conditions will be so terrible that you wish you were never born at all. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to point out to us all that it would be heresy for us to imagine a situation where we say we put down our arms because they have captured our leaders and taken them to Yaounde. That we put down our arms because, like some French language papers in Yaounde said, that they said la sécession, décapité. I'm sure the events on the ground are proving them very wrong daily, but in the days ahead, the events on the ground are going to prove them even far, far, far much wrong. Because the people of Southern Cameroons have attained a level where this is no longer just a physical struggle as people see. Mr. Paul Biya, if you can capture spirits, better get ready to capture spirits. Because this revolution has left the realm of the physical and it has gone to the realm of the spiritual. The spirit of the revolution is alive. The spirit of the revolution will live on. The spirit of the struggle will not only survive, but will live right up to the moment when we shall shout at Bongo Square in Boya and say, free, free, free at last. And we shall sing, hail, hail, hail the land of freedom. My dear people of Southern Cameroons, let me remind us of what our duty is from this moment. We must all know that the time that some of us were sleeping and hoping that the international community was going to rush so quickly to our rescue has evolved. It must have dawned on us all now that we are all by ourselves. We are only by ourselves. Yes, the people of Rwanda got to a moment where they were only by themselves. But despite the odds, the people of Rwanda succeeded in taking back their country from France And we all know the rest of the history. Oh yes, President Kagame led them to taking their country back from France. And we can see Rwanda today is a different country. We can see the level of growth, the level of development in Rwanda is not comparable to any other country on the African continent comparatively. I say this because if you look at the economic statistics, they tell you Rwanda has one of the fastest growing economies on the African continent. That is because they sacrificed and took back their country from France. We all know that when late President Nelson Mandela and his ANC were leading the fight against apartheid in South Africa, even Margaret Thatcher of the United Kingdom of Great Britain called Nelson Mandela a terrorist. But we all know how the books are talking about Nelson Mandela today. We all know how Americans, how the British, how the French, how the Scandinavians, how everybody is talking about Mandela today. They no longer refer to Mandela as a terrorist. Mandela is considered one of the greatest human beings that have lived on the planet Earth. My country people, the time we will be the talk say na United Nations we can't give we independence don't pass. The time we will be the talk say na Commonwealth, all we don't see which way Commonwealth don't come do. The time we will be the talk say na African Union, no, all that time don't pass. Now on we shoulders we lie squarely. And we get for proven for them. Say we be capable for do it the way we all we go must do them. In our last discussion, I pointed out that the time to teach the traitors in our midst a sound lesson has come. That time is now. If we know, also stand now, say we want make the picking the born and today, make the no can pay for waiting way la Republic du Cameroon will consider a crime we will commit by asking for freedom. Then make we begin for convince ourselves. Say we give for fight all the way. But I want to show all we say this fight will fit win them for 2018 if we just do the thing we were supposed to do. There are a lot of us out there who have contributed until we are saying we are getting tired of contributing. We shan't get tired. If they told us that if we deposit $1 million today, La Republique will be sent out of our territory and everything will happen and we will regain our freedom and we shall go back and settle on our land and begin to develop it very fast. I'm sure so many people want to sell their houses to do that. But, brethren, the one thing we have to do now is if you are working 10 hours in order to feed your family and be able to secure some little contribution for the struggle, begin considering taking another job, which will be entirely dedicated to the financing of our struggle. The time for us to contribute and send the finances directly where the impact will be made is now. We have to consider that moment where we thought that I'll only contribute to X, only contribute to Y, only contribute to Z, or my contributions must only go to A, has passed. Now we want a result. I don't care who does it. All we want are the results. We have seen what our boys on the ground are doing in terms of defending our grandmothers and grandfathers from being completely burned in all of their homes by the terrorist soldiers from La République du Cameroon. I want to give us a challenge. Thank God I had a very safe trip last night and I have arrived. And so we are going to begin moving from one region to the other to raise funds, to bring people together, to put money together, and to send it where it has to go to get the impact that it has to get. Yes, the time has come for all of us, wherever we are, to become fundraisers, because we must give ourselves a maximum of 3 months to raise $1 million. I insist, to raise $1 million, because 2018 shall not elude us. We have a chance to win in 2018, and we must win in 2018. We will win in 2018. If you know what I know, you will understand why it is in 2018 that we shall either make or mar it. If you know what I know, you will understand that it will make plenty of sense for you to consider taking that extra job, for you to consider making those extra calls, for you to consider doing the utmost for us to raise this money. within 3 months, we will have to put together that money. Even while we are in difficulties, even while we are mourning our grandmothers and grandfathers being burned in their houses, even when we are mourning that our people are being killed in the bushes and buried in mass graves, even when we are mourning that whole villages are being wiped out, Mr. Philemon Yang, who calls himself incidentally a son from the northern zone of southern Cameroons, held a meeting last weekend. And that meeting he held in his house with that group of people that are called CPDMites, whom he calls elites or I don't know what. And I even want to start calling them bloodthirsty monsters. Because if they were not bloodthirsty monsters, they wouldn't go and sit and be talking election and be discussing on how they should do everything to bring down the signals of the SCBC in southern Cameroons, when they should be talking about how to put an end to the mass killings of their people. My dear brothers and sisters, we are on our own, but we can make it. We shall make it. We will make it. We are on our own. I know a lot of people will say we cannot drop diplomacy. No, we shan't drop diplomacy. But let us recall that diplomacy is no diplomacy when it is not backed by power. We will make it. The international community will get the attention we deserve from them when we do what they are expecting us to do. Yes, the United Nations always expects you to be able to, escalate the situation. That is the sad reality. We have to send La République du Cameroon panting out of our territory, because the moment La République du Cameroon will start crying, will start panting, will start sweating, and will start screaming, because they are picking theirs in bags on a daily basis who are coming to terrorize us and are rather getting rewarded adversely, yes, they will be the ones to call on the United Nations. They will be the ones to call on the African Union. They will be the ones to call on the Commonwealth of Nations. That is why we have to do our assignment. That is why we have to stand up there. Let me tell us one little story. And this story, I learned it. It's not just a story, it's a reality, it's something I lived. When I was in primary school in Bangui, a good lot of people who have been to Bangui will have learned about Abbey Fall and the mysteries that generally surrounded Abbey Fall. We left school one afternoon and we're going back home, and we had a habit of stopping around there and throwing stones on the bats around the fall area. One of our classmates threw his own stone, and then we all suddenly heard a huge sound. It seemed as if his stone had landed but on the roof of a house, and we're wondering, but how could this be inside water? And suddenly our friend started running and panting and saying, one big woman is beating me. That gentleman never ever had the opportunity to live in Bangui again, because he was traumatized. Every night he would see a woman beating him, and the interpretation that would cosmically hurt was that the stone he threw fell on the head of the son of this woman that would generally call Mami Wata. And so there was devastation, total devastation. Bangui shook until this boy had to be taken out elsewhere for treatment. And each time he was ever brought and crossed the river Abbey into Bangui, the torment started. This is the kind of message we have to send to Mr. Paul Biya. That you have touched Sisiku Ayuk Tabe, our interim president. You have touched the wrong figure. That until you vomit him out, that kind of tremor that Bangui knew is the tremor that La République du Cameroun is going to know. My dear people, this is not time for us to go crying. No. You can realize, as I told you from the beginning, that my heart will be getting lighter and lighter as I'm evolving. And now it is completely light. Now is resolution time. Resolution time. Resolution time. We shall no longer bother ourselves appealing to the conscience of the one that is oppressing us, because it will never yield any results. I said this already yesterday in an audio. Let me repeat it here. Never, ever fall into the trap of the La République du Cameroun agents among us. I call them agents, but there are some who are not agents, who are just angry and just, frustrated to the point that they made these utterances. They may not necessarily be agents, but those who are agents are harping on it, are harping on this word that might just have fallen out of anger and frustration and wanting to promote it so that it should move, it should not end up just as words. It should move from words to action. That will not happen. Nobody in southern Cameroon should touch the hair of any Nigerian national resident on our territory or anywhere else for that matter. Nigeria remains our big brother. The day we will know exactly what happened, the day we will get the details of what happened, we will realize that we would have been totally misled, and that we will begin to weep widely why we allowed ourselves to be carried into the wrong direction, into doing the wrong thing. Take note, the governor of Cross River State was one of the first personalities internationally to come out loud and condemn the United Nations for staying silent while genocide was going on in southern Cameroon. This same governor has visited our refugee communities at least twice or thrice with a lot of provisions. Even as we speak, the building that Takumbang Relief has spent over $10 million to rehabilitate, to fix for hundreds of refugees from southern Cameroon to move into, was donated to us by the authorities of the Ikom local government area. And even as we speak, some of our sisters and mothers are putting to birth young Ambazonians in the homes of Nigerians who are housing them as refugees. Let us not get blinded by anger. Let us not get blinded by frustration. Let us not listen to the voice of deception and do what will not be honorable, not only in our eyes, not only in the eyes of Big Brother Nigeria, and not only in the eyes of the international community, but also in the eyes of God, who ordained this struggle and who has been giving us direction. That said, I repeat, the time for action is now. We will do what we have to do, because failure is not part of this whole thing. It will not exist. We should never even dream about that. And let us remind La République du Cameroun that there will be no elections on our territory. And I want to draw the attention of the officials of the SDF party, the Social Democratic Front. Southern Cameroonians have refused. There will be no elections on our territory. And wherever you are planning your elections and all whatnot, be sure you go and hold them in space. No planning of any elections on the territory of the Southern Cameroons. The hour for now is for the total freedom and liberation of our territory. A word to the wise is sufficient. God is with us.